principle.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like motivation for, why people go out to eat tends to vary. Like, hunger is a huge factor, right?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But then you've got, like, taste. People are like, I really want something that tastes good.
And then you have, like, the social currency of, like, if you're religious, going to church, and after you get out of church, like, the Sunday, like, breakfast, lunch kind of deal turns into, like, huge social gatherings.
Yeah, there's a unique crowd that people in the industry underappreciate. All right. So, welcome to another Plate Drop podcast with C and A. And today's topic, in case you haven't put it together, is the Buffengers. It is Earth's hungriest heroes taking revenge on the evil buffets. So, obviously, you say, why are these people heroes? And who are they? Who make up these group of individuals who are going to save us all from the evil buffets?
So, there are all kinds of people that make up the groups that are willing to take on buffets. But there's one kind of person who isn't cut out for the team.
Well, specifically, his name is Vegan Joe. Because, obvious reasons. Like, you're going to need a strong member in every position. So if you think of it in terms of football, you've got, linemen and, running backs, or usually a running back, a quarterback, unless you're doing some really unique offense, which usually you see that from groups that are trying to, make up for their lack of talent. But in this case, proteins and real cheeses are kind of crucial into exploiting the weaknesses of the buffet, which the weaknesses, in my opinion, would be cutting their profit.
So when talking about cutting into a buffet's profit, we feel that it's important to maximize food eaten, and there are two ways to do this. One way is kind of the unrealistic way, which is to have 10 all-stars of Joey Chestnuts on the team. But we feel that a much more reasonable and efficient way is to have kind of like specialists.
Think of it like those competitions where the people eat as many hot dogs as possible, and then you come to find out that the champion had some sort of like augmentation, not really like a post-birth change, more just like they were genetically born with like more room for their stomach, or missing a rib, or some nonsense like that. Or if they swim like Michael Phelps, their body was shaped ideally for being in water, So in this case, we want individuals who can put down a fair amount of food.
Yeah. I mean, also though, these individuals need to be smart enough to understand what kind of foods to avoid.
Well, but that's where Vegan Joe comes in, because he may not be able to perform on the front lines, but he can also provide insight on the proper things to eat. So you don't necessarily, for example, if let's say the first place we go to, not everyone has to be enlisted on this task. You could just have floaters. People are like, I'm here with them, but I'm not going to order anything, which you might get a nasty frown, but who cares? If the ultimate goal is winning, we don't really care about the feelings of random people who disagree with our objective.
Yeah. This being said, one thing that I feel is important to say is tip the server well. They are nothing but another piece in the system that are the evil buffets.
I agree with that. I mean, you being able to take care of an individual has nothing to do with the bottom line of the person or entity we're trying to dismantle. So I would say, capitalism itself is not evil, okay? But like casinos are evil, all right? And buffets sell a similar false sense of hope, like you feel like when you go to a casino that you're going to be like instantly rich if you just get lucky. But the reality is statistics and luck just don't go hand in hand with regards to your chances, like they have professionals map out the odds, and in the same way with food, human stomachs are, for the most part, can handle only X amount of food. So, once you reach that point, you tend to have to make a decision. Are you going to go for the most food consumed and lower your positive experience? Or are you going to cut back and increase the profit for the buffet?
Yeah, I mean, you're really making a lot of personal sacrifice, and that sounds like a joke, but like when you're going in, being willing to like push past to the point of feeling like you're going to vomit all over the place is a real thing.
Right. So it also makes you reevaluate the whole purpose of going out. So back to the initial motivations, were you just hungry? Were you trying to make a statement? Were you trying to see, like, our team is going to make a statement. And we're going to have nothing but dedicated monsters.
It's also important to like disregard the like tricks that buffets will use on you. Like, for example, if you go into a buffet, notice where like the giant ladles are. It's in things like rice and just like stuff that does not cost a lot of money. Potatoes as well. Versus if you look on like the trays of meat, there might be 10 pieces of meat and they have 30 customers in the building, and that's to like disincentivize you from taking as much as you really want, whereas it also incentivizes you to grab a lot more rice than you want. But you can't really have any regard for the other customers, and you just have to take all 10 pieces of meat.
Because in that case, it's almost like you either use the patrons currently partaking as an ally in an effort to clear out as many of the trays as possible to make the area like, look bad in the sense that they are not providing enough on their all-you-can-eat system. Or if you're in it for yourself, and you personally want to like be the child who doesn't share and gets all of it and has a great time by themselves, like that approach is definitely all 10 for you. But in this system if our goal is to teach them a lesson, and this place advertises all you can eat prime rib, and there's like another member, an honorary member of the Buffengers, let them get a slice. Why not? Because that's one less for our team to have to consume, right? So they're on the team today. Yeah, why not? So I think you got to maximize your resources. If the whole point is you're going to have 10 people lined up, they're going to eat their slice of prime rib. They're not going to sit down. They're going to get right back in that circle to get another slice of prime rib until there's no more prime rib. And if they don't bring another piece out, there's going to be a riot, right? I mean, you don't get to advertise that stuff and not put it on the line, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, in theory, yes. Actually, I tune into a radio show probably 3 or 4 days out of the week, and there was a caller into the radio show that is a regular patron of an unnamed buffet. And the buffet, he said, had the best fried chicken in the world. And since he was a caller of a pretty popular radio show, a lot of people were all going in buying the fried chicken, and they would just get like bags full of it and then leave with it. And so the buffet started charging extra for anyone who wanted the fried chicken. So even when you're trying to hold the companies accountable, sometimes they're able to just sidestep it. And so it's important to put a lot of pressure on them after you show up.
Right. I mean, I think of it like you keep the approach secret, you attack, you teach them a lesson, and then you formulate a new strategy. So this idea of having a low price for either an inferior product or not quite all you can eat. I've never really seen a commercial for that, you know? But for example, when you go to a sit-down restaurant and they also have an all-you-can-eat system in which the server will bring you the food, there is always this delay. There's always your server disappears for 10 to 15 minutes, and after your first bite, there's that window of 15 to 20 minutes in which no matter what you do or how much you consume, your body is going to say, we're done after 20 minutes. There's like a range of time, but once you take that first bite, you have instantly set like a time limit on how much you can you can train yourself around it and you can just block it and you can do whatever you want, but in most cases, this is what people have generally work with subconsciously. And so you just have to figure out that's one more plate of food that our team has to make up because people aren't really prepared to maximize these experiences. I mean, there are people out there too who are quite happy with eating half a plate of macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes at an all-you-can-eat buffet and tapping out.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the genius of the marketing, though, right? Is it's all you can eat. And so, whenever they market it, they're not trying to market it to, stretching the human limit. They're trying to market it to, if you only want one plate, well, that's all you can eat, right? It always comes across that way to me. And so, that's why I think that you have those people that are perfectly happy, because they kind of, fall into the veil of, well, if this is all I can eat, then it must be a lot of food and it must be cost effective.
Except when you look at the menu and you could have ordered a side of mashed potatoes and a side of macaroni and cheese for a fraction of that cost.
Well, I'm not saying that it actually is cost effective, just that why people think it is because of how they market it. There was a study done by Cornell University, I think 4 or 5 years ago, it might be a little bit longer than that, where they had groups of people visit a buffet, but they told half of the participants that the buffet was $4 and the other half that it was 8 or 10 or something, along those lines. And the half that paid the $10 reported thinking that they got a better deal just because of the way it was marketed.
Right. Same food, different experience.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you go to these places, clearly you're not concerned about getting the proper nutrition. Because you're not, no one has their pocket food pyramid in their corner, just checking it, make sure I got the right amount of fruits and vegetables. Most of the time, it's just they're eating what they think is probably the tastiest or most delicious items, and they're just trying to treat themselves. But
yeah, which eating the tastiest stuff is totally the point. That's a point in favor of the Buffengers, because don't know if you know this, but food that's expensive and food that tastes good, actually there's some correlation there. So we can really punish as long as people always eat what they think tastes good within reason.
Right. Because, I mean, I had a motto for a very long time of not paying for roughage. I just felt it just didn't make any sense. If you could go and pick it in a garden, then you shouldn't have to really pay high dollar for your Caesar salad. Honestly, it should just come free with the meal, because it's just such an abundance. You go to the grocery store, you can buy heads of lettuce for 99 cents. And when you get your receipt for the completion of your meal, you know, you see like $12, you know, you could have got all the green stuff for $1. Like, why do you want? Does that mean that everything else was $14 worth of stuff? It just doesn't make any sense.
And you know, I think another question that like is some people are probably thinking that's important to be answered is like the disregard for the people that work at these establishments, I guess, like because of like how much running they have to do. But I think that could like what we are doing could eventually be morphed into helping them, because like I know a few people that have worked at buffets in the past, and they still work for like the low like $2.13 kind of wages, and then like rely on tips. But because a lot of buffets are self-serve, people feel like they have to tip less. So like even the workers at these establishments tend to get punished. And so like once you start like driving food costs, then maybe like the employees would be more willing to ask for higher wages or something along those lines.
That is a hefty hope. I think it's really more about educating the patrons and making them aware of how things work instead of allowing general misconceptions to take over for that type of experience. But in general, you know, you got to think, even if someone has gone out to eat in the past, that there's not a guarantee that they understand fully how that entire structure of employment works. You know, I just feel like there's definitely more people could know, you know, in regards to how that, because I mean, there's no other occupation that is allowed to be paid just enough to pay the taxes on what you theoretically could make when you beg for peanuts. Right? I mean, what other job do you know? Like, I'm going to go to construction, you know, tomorrow, and I'm going to build a house. I'm going to go build this house, and then my employer is going to give me $2.13 for every hour, and I'm going to hope whoever's I built this house for gives me some money.
Yeah. Well, like clearly it's like a ridiculous concept, but like that's where like the like exploitation comes in, right? That like they're able to keep food costs so low, and like they have like this illusion of running really efficiently, and so because of that, like they think that they can treat their servers and even convince their like kitchen staff and servers that like they are worth so little because of like how efficient they've came up with like their systems. So like not only would you have to educate the patrons, but also the employees.
I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's definitely a multiple topic concept, you know, but for sure it's almost like when you see places talk about cutting out the middle person and then passing the savings on to you. And they're like, but if you don't want to, like, you know, pass those savings on to your person taking care of you, it's okay. Because there's been a lot of places have gone to a system in which they removed gratuity because it upset the guest. You know, the people that come in and basically keep the place open, if they're upset and they don't come back, then it all shuts down. So you got to do whatever it takes to keep those doors open.
Yeah. I think another kind of like question that like we need to be asking is like, what kinds of buffets would we be targeting? Because like in my experience, there are 3 general types of buffets. One is like just like the run-of-the-mill buffet that like they keep food costs low, they charge like a midpoint amount, and they do this because again the illusion of paying more, you think that like you're getting more bang for your buck, generally speaking. But then there are 2 other types of buffets that like really stick it to you. One is the type of buffet that they charge a lot of money and they have food that is like generally filling. Like I have a friend who was telling me about a buffet that he took his girlfriend to, And for the two of them, it was $70. And most of the food was like breads and stuff, which are known to be the more filling of types of food. So they each ate maybe a plate and a half before they felt sick, and they paid $70. And then the third type that I run into is there's a type of buffet that I go to where it's like $4 a person, and it all tastes good, and it's a lot of food. But every time I've been there, I've gotten food poisoning. So that's like the general three types, and so you have to figure out which types you're targeting.
So on the super high end buffet, so there's one in Vegas where it's like $100, and they've got like, think of the most luxurious or extravagant, when people always talk about crab legs or king, like whatever it is, you've got like various types of cuts of steak, and people get excited. They're like, oh, this is so good, it's so good. From that standpoint, it's more like an idea you're buying into, because like when you start adding zeros to the cost of things, like that's like weeks and of like groceries you can buy, so like, we're starting to look at like food budgets for families, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to spend 90 minutes, and I'm going to try to like, so I feel like once you exceed $11, and I think 11, maybe $12 is kind of like, once you start moving well beyond that, then there's like a different type of mindset, like you can't win if you're spending out, like there's nothing you can do. The only thing you could do is go in there and just like knock all the food off of like, and they would still be winning. You just, like, everyone would look at you like, what are you doing? But yeah, you get like a room of 35 people spending $100. Like, there's nothing you could eat that would like bring balance. There's nothing, So you've got like, okay, so you've got price points, and you've got the hope or lies, right? So if you go into a place, right, and this has happened numerous times where people will go in and then they flip to the back and they say, oh, you guys have a buffet. Is it still available? And then you'll let them know there's 20 minutes left. 20 minutes. Well, what does that mean? Are they going to get fresh food? Are they going to go, is the kitchen going to prepare a special meal just for this table so that they've had an experience that is memorable, or are they going to get what's there, what's left over? Do you punish? I feel like there should be something where like everything should be fresh until the cutoff, and then you just let it last maybe like 30, 40 minutes. But like the timing of these things, if you have a breakfast buffet, well, you don't get all day McDonald's breakfast at these places. There's a cutoff. So time and space, goes hand in hand. The amount of space in your stomach and the limited time frames in which you can consume this, which is another thing in which it's not necessarily all you can eat if time is a factor.
Yeah, and this is a big thing about being part of the Buffengers, right, is that you never want to go to the tail end of one of these specials, because all that food's going to get thrown out anyways. The goal is to go to the very beginning and just blitz through it. That way at the midpoint, they have to make more food. And then hopefully you can blitz through that and try and give them to make like a third or fourth batch before the time limit is up.
And we're not even taking into account everyone else trying to eat the food. This is just a solid team of 10 people literally destroying the entire line of food. Now, there will be items that are just not touched. Yeah. The rolls, not touched.
Yeah, no, never. And it's one of those things too where like maybe you don't dip your hat into getting sodas either, is like sodas are not like, they're more filling, I guess, but like they're not effective.
They don't kick in you're more hungry until too late in the process, you know? And the other thing is like you have like in sports when you see the players kind of like getting a little bit of water because if they get too much they'll get a cramp. That's the plan. It's so you don't choke. You know, that's it.
Yeah. If you watch like the competitive eating, like they pour the water on their food, so like they're not even wasting time.
Right.
They're just, and like I'm not advocating doing that because we want to be kind of civilized at least.
Right.
But like it's that same concept where like you don't want to be caught up drinking a lot of your drink because not only does that waste time, but it fills you up with something that isn't cost effective.
Yeah, you know, because everywhere has free water, and if it's not free, then you're just getting, you know,
all the more reason to go after the buffet, right?
Right.
If they're charging for water.
Yeah, you gotta stick it to them. Like, not only are they probably breaking like common law of like water must be offered with all food services, but you know, I mean, I actually remember last place we went. I said I'll have a water, and she immediately handed me a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Before, you know, and I was just like, well.
And like we didn't catch it in time, right?
Yeah,
like we paid for it, and then it was like they had free fountain water.
Yeah.
But like the owner of this establishment just handed you the $3 bottle.
Yeah. And the crazy part is like even now when you go to a drive-through and you place your order, they never just say, okay, your total is. They say, and what else? What else? And you're like, I just want what I told you. Like, stop trying to like plug extra stuff. But at a buffet, you never see that. There's never someone saying, hey, can I get you something else? Never, right? They just stare at you waiting for you to leave. Like,
I mean, we might be entering the realms of like another episode sometime in the future, but they really are like two sides of the same coins, right? Like when I worked fast food, you know, man, I was instructed by my managers, like when the customer's at the window, ask them if they want to change a drink into a milkshake for an extra $1.
right.
Right.
I mean, milkshakes are delicious. But if you show up for the dollar menu and then you end up buying an $8 combo, you didn't go there for the $8 menu, right? You got there and you just ended up getting like sucked into this vortex of poor decision making.
Yeah, but like I said, that's kind of like just the opposite side of this coin that maybe we can cover at some point in the future. But, you know, man, back to the Buffengers, I think you made a great point that they never like offer you anything else. Like, even in my personal experience, my mother was a waitress at a few buffets, and like sometimes like the manager would be like, hey, you're offering too many drinks, even though like they're crushing you on the amount of drinks that you drink, and they're still telling her, slow down.
I mean,
we don't want them to have good service.
Well, the syrup for those sodas, you know, like they can produce like 1,500 glasses of the beverage, and then their cost range from, it used to be $50, but you know, that was many moons ago. Now they're probably like $70 a box. But if you're selling like 1,500 $2.60 sodas, I'm pretty sure you might have some profit in there, right?
Well, I mean, you know, it also comes down to like how easy it is to maintain like the like the sprayer thing at like the end of like the fountains. Like to maintain those, it takes like 2 minutes of work.
Well,
So, like,
and the thing is, it's 2 minutes of the server on the list of their tasks at the end of the day, to which they are, you know, not getting paid for.
yeah, it's to like put it in the sanitation water.
So it's basically, it's free. Right. If you own a restaurant, you can get an entire labor force for free.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like being like 9 and 10 and going into the places that my mom worked, and she was like sweeping and vacuuming because she had to. She wasn't getting paid for this.
Right. And they paint the picture in a way where it's like you do these so you can set yourself up for success. Now, obviously having like silverware for your guests, clutch, I would paint that on the list of important things. Cleaning the restroom, not on the list. You know, like there's certain tasks that like full-time, full-waged employees, you know, can do. You know, but in terms of like when you have people showing up to enjoy, you know, the options for the establishment, and then they literally see someone come out of the restroom with, you know, yellow gloves, and then 2 seconds later pop up to the table and ask them what they can get them to drink. Not a good look. Not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the fast food thing, there was at one point in which someone walked out of the bathroom and then immediately started making milkshakes, and the customer saw the person go from the bathroom to the milkshake machine and was like, I'm not eating that. And the customer should have done that. But it's because these types of services lend themselves to having employees that feel like they must do everything in the quickest way possible.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly.
So I guess a quick recap of the who, what, where, when, why, and how. All right, we'll start with who.
Well, that would be you and your friends that eat the best, and even Vegan Joe could get into that.
Oh yeah, Vegan Joe has a managing position, like just like in high school when Vegan Joe didn't make the team, he still had an option to, you know, carry the laundry,
Coach,
you know,
maybe.
yeah, hold the playbook,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a vital role in this because, you know, just like in our society, you don't have to work the hardest to have the most impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got what?
So what would be trying to eat the most food at buffets in the most efficient way possible?
Primarily ones that have the highest food cost. So proteins, meats, not so much chicken, but if that's like the best choice. If it's wrapped in bacon, you know, I'll go for that. Yeah.
I mean, just stay away from the breads, the rice,
Processed
potatoes.
cheese. Yeah. You want like actual, like real cheese.
If they have like crab legs or lobster,
Destroy it.
exactly.
Right. Don't actually sit down. Like you loop right back around. Like you crush the crab leg in your hand, remove the part that, I mean, actually, and the thing is we're not condoning waste. We actually want you to, it's like, imagine you go to the marathon and you don't run the full amount and you win. That's kind of like not what we're doing, right? Because that's like a false achievement. It's kind of like you don't even really need to be part of the team if you can just go in there and just destroy, like physically, like take the food and drop it on the ground. Like that's not okay.
It's also a way to get caught.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because these places, after being punished on numerous occasions, will have to, you know, revamp their system of surveillance and paying attention. You know, like not every station's going to have the dude that cuts the meat, but there will be like someone who is standing right next to the was it the chocolate fountain to make sure people don't stick their hand in it. Like that's a real thing.
That might be trademarked.
Oh no, yeah, that place is on the list of places that need to be destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, connect those dots. Where? We just
Buffets.
right, yeah. So we gave a hint at one place that is well deserving of punishment. But ironically, this same place, I remember seeing a video when they had one of the employees made a video and decided that they had like a health inspector showing up. So they opted to wheel trays of food out to the back so they wouldn't get in trouble for whatever nonsense they were doing improperly, and then eventually wheel it back in. So right.
The wheeling it back in is what kills me, because like they were so afraid of getting caught, but they didn't actually care
Right.
about the health codes.
Okay, so the profit got in the way and forced an even more ridiculous scenario.
It wasn't like they made a mistake.
And so the other thing is when. When is the best time for Earth's hungriest heroes to strike?
So I think that there are two answers to this. One would be like maybe you're the first person there for breakfast. That way you can get the most, so then the other patrons kind of like clean up for you. Or you go right in the rush where you have the most like involuntary help, I suppose. Allies.
Yes. Common goal, you know. And that's crucial. A lot of times, like, for example, let's say there's an establishment that has 24-hour all-you-can-eat, which those places have mastered the art of taking full advantage of people, because you figure if time is no longer a factor and it's just the space in your stomach that's going to stop you, like, what's to stop someone from spending the entire day, right? Now, that place is like level 14. Okay, you don't go there day one because you're gonna lose. But eventually, when you've mastered this, you've assembled the perfect team. You go there, open to close, and you punish them.
And I guess what would be next is the why.
Right. Well, too many people have been taken advantage of. Okay, now, obviously, everyone has to eat, you know, and in this country, there's definitely like a surplus of food relative to other places. The national average for consumption here exceeds, like, name it like probably like 95, 96, 90. I mean, it's probably close to 99% of the country, not countries in the world, in terms of the rates of just too much necessary. Like, it's weird, we have hunger, we have situations where people do not have food, but in terms of like supply and availability, we have bountiful amounts of food. But when you're dealing with a situation where it's for profit, things kind of get a little sketchy, you know?
Yeah.
You can't show up. Like, when a grocery store has like a food drive, like that, I don't really understand. Like, they don't need to convince other people to donate the food. They have all of the food.
Well, I think it's like one of those things that it's like buy $10 in canned goods, donate it, then come back in and get your groceries for the week.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys, we're going to give you an opportunity, and we're going to make money off of it. Now, granted, their margin of profit is like 3%, and they make it on volume, but it's just like, it's just backwards, you know? Like, and, you know, maybe there are places that have like that will donate. I mean, I know there's like places I've seen that will, like, there's like you'll see it on products, it'll say like a sell by date or best used by date, and then as things approach that, they will donate it within the reasonable time frame so that it's still good. And that, like, places like that exist. But there, you know, are a lot of places that don't, they don't take that approach. So there are restaurants that have that motto, we're dollar first, and that is why we're going to stop them.
That's correct. And just in case you're wondering, we will also be partaking in being part of the Buffengers.
Now, I will be honest with you. I will probably be assisting Vegan Joe in managing the team, because I personally have not mastered the art of massive consumption. But I feel like some of the tips that we've collected today can be put into practice, you know, in terms of like team selection, you know. That's a crucial, because I mean, imagine you've put together an average team, you know, and you have 10 people, they pay their $12, that's $120 worth of plus tax, and we're in the state of Tennessee, so it's like 9.75, you know, rounded to 10. It's like an extra $12. It's $132. Yeah. That's like, for what? Like, once we, you know, that number is around the range of like, you know, a grocery list family, you know, you can feed all kinds of people for all kinds of weeks. If you do it right, right? I mean, you'll see like billboards where it's like, donate $1 and feed an entire family, right? So like imagine what $132 will do. So given the fact that you're going to put $132 plus tax into the hands of the enemy, like you better be ready to destroy their hopes and dreams of collecting any profit. And if you pick the wrong team members, your odds of doing that are quite low.
But anyways, guys, I'm C. He's A. We are the plate droppers. Thanks for listening.
Out.